Call this meeting to order. Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a roll call.
Council President McIrvin.
Here.
Councilmember Prince.
Here.
Councilmember Perez. Councilmember Vaughn.
Here.
Councilmember Albertson.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Here.
And Councilmember O'Halloran.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, one absent.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Council President McIrvin.
I move we excuse absent council member.
Second.
Been moved by Council President McIrvin, second by Councilmember Prince, that we excuse the absent council member. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. First up, we have a public hearing, warehousing and distribution moratorium extension, and presenting is Paul Hintz.
Good evening, Mayor Pavone and members of City Council. For the record, I'm Paul Hintz, planner with the Department of Community and Economic Development, and I'm here before you tonight to request an extension of an existing moratorium on warehousing and distribution facilities. Emergency Ordinance 6057 was adopted on February 14th of this year. It established a moratorium on the acceptance of land use applications, building applications, and business license applications for warehousing and distribution facilities. The moratorium will sunset on August 14th of this month, unless lifted sooner by City Council or unless extended pursuant to state law. State law allows moratoriums to be extended for up to 6 months if after a public hearing and if a work program is established. And staff have initiated a work program, and we are requesting an extension until February 1st of next year. The moratorium noted that warehousing and distribution facilities are only allowed in the city's industrial zones, which are intended to implement the employment area land use designation of the city's comprehensive plan. And policy L18 of the city's comprehensive plan states that in part, employment areas provide a significant economic development and employment base for the city, and that we should maintain a variety and balance of uses through zoning that promotes a gradual transition of uses on sites with good access and visibility to more intensive commercial and office uses. But warehousing distribution facilities are land-intensive uses with relatively low numbers of employees, and trucking associated with these facilities creates significant impacts on local roadways and produce high levels of particulate pollution. Additionally, taxes collected for these facilities are insufficient to mitigate their impacts, and so staff seek adequate time to complete the initiated work program to determine appropriate zoning, development standards, and impact fees for warehousing and distribution facilities. And staff's recommendations before you on this slide, and that concludes my presentation.
All right. What's the wish of the council? Any questions? Do we have any correspondence?
We had no correspondence, Mr. Mayor.
And nobody signed up.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move to
Councilmember
close the
Prince.
public hearing.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Council President McIrvin, that we close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. Next up is the administrative report.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Cascade Park Playground will be open this week. The playground was expanded and relocated to an area with better drainage and more visibility from 126th Avenue Southeast. Bright new equipment, including climbers, steppers, monkey bars, slides, spinners, and swings, provide exciting play opportunities. Final work on the project will occur in the early fall and include installation of site furnishings adjacent to the play area. Questions may be directed to Betsy Severson at 425-757-6657. The next pop-up lunch event will be held Tuesday, August 2nd from 12 to 1:30 at Liberty Park. Lunch and personal hygiene kits will be available to those with food insecurities and or who are unsheltered. This event is sponsored by the Equity Housing and Human Services Department and the Emergency Feeding Program. Celebrate National Night Out at Renton Farmers Market on Tuesday, August 2nd, tomorrow, from 3 to 7. National Night Out lets residents across America send a powerful message about neighborhood unity, awareness, safety, and police community partnerships. For more information on National Night Out, go to rentonwa.gov/NNO. Renton History Museum has just opened a timely new exhibit by Anna Mia Davidson of photos from Carpathian mountain villages of Ukraine. In spring 2004, Davidson traveled to this remote region with special permission from the Ukraine Ministry of Cultural Affairs to document the mountain people and their traditional ways. Her photographs depict these proud people and these beautiful natural landscape where they have lived for centuries. This exhibit is made possible by a grant from Renton Municipal Arts Commission and will be at the museum until September 16th. Information about preventative street maintenance, traffic impact projects, and road closures happening this week can be found at rentonlaw.gov/traffic. All projects are weather permitting, and unless otherwise noted, streets will always remain open.
Okay, thank you. Next up is audience comment. We do have a couple people signed up. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name and the city you reside in. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. First up is Mike Cressy. Mike, are you with us tonight? I do not see Mike. Okay. Dr. Peter Van Breda.
Good evening. Firstly, thank you for your service to the community. I come as an appeal, a final appeal possibly, that I live in Lower Kennydale in Renton, and over the last number of years we have seen the light planes, the increase of traffic, the light planes around our area, so much so that some of them start at 6:30 in the morning and go till after 10, and now all of a sudden we have seaplanes going to the Hyatt, and just last weekend one of the seaplanes left at 12:30 a.m. and you can imagine what that does. We can't even sit outside some days because it's just impossible with those planes coming over us constantly. I've appealed to the airport authorities, I've written to the council, but nothing has ever been done for us, and I think it's grossly unfair to the residents. I've been in that particular home for 19 years, and I've never seen as many planes going over us as I've seen in the last couple of years. It's just impossible to live. In fact, I'm thinking of moving just because of that reason. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I still don't see Mike Cressy. Do we have anyone signed up to speak remotely?
Judith, is there anybody online signed up to speak?
I'll take that as a no.
Okay.
All right. Next, we have the consent agenda. There are 3 items for council consideration. Any council would like to have pulled?
Mr. Mayor, seeing none, I move the council approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Council President McGurven, second by Councilmember Prince, that the consent agenda be approved as published. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, motion carries. Next up, unfinished business. My list. Council President McGurven,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Prince,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Van,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Albertson,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Rivera,
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
and Councilmember O'Halloran.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that was easy. Next up is legislation. We have 1 ordinance and for first reading and 2 for second reading.
No, well, the first one is for first and second reading?
Oh, first and second.
Yeah, sorry. And,
4 for first reading.
yes, sir. And so the first one is regarding the warehouse and distribution moratorium extension per Mr. Hintz's presentation earlier. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, extending by 6 months the moratorium on land use, building permit, and business license application for warehousing and distribution, setting forth findings of fact in support of said 6-month extension, providing for a severability, declaring an emergency, and establishing an immediate effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Prince.
I move the ordinance be placed on second and final reading tonight.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Albertson, that the ordinance be placed on second and final reading tonight. In discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Okay, I'll read it again. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, extending by 6 months the moratorium on land use, building permit, and business license applications for warehousing and distribution, setting forth findings of fact in support of said 6-month extension, providing for severability, declaring an emergency, and establishing an immediate effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
move the ordinance be adopted as read.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Albertson, that the ordinance be adopted and is read. The second reading requires a roll call.
Council President McGurven.
Aye.
Councilmember Prince.
Aye.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Aye.
Councilmember Albertson.
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera.
Aye.
And Councilmember O'Halloran.
Aye.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, all ayes.
All right, motion carries.
All right, next up, we have 4 ordinances for first reading. The first one is regarding docket item 197, tree regulations. Let's see, an ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending subsections 42110A, 42110E6, and 42110E32, section 44130, subsections 48120D1 and 48120D20, section 49195, and definitions in sections 41140, 411120, and 411200, revising tree retention and land clearing regulations in the Renton Municipal Code, authorizing corrections, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
move the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Albertson, that the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the next ordinance is regarding docket item number D210, medical institutions in EA. Employment area zone. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending subsections 4220R, 4260K, 4280A29, and 4280A56 in section 411130 of the Renton Municipal Code, amending medical institutions regulations in the employment area, EA land use designation, authorizing corrections, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
move the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Albertson, that the ordinance be placed on second and final reading in the next council meeting. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right, the next ordinance is docket D211, Townhome MFTE, which is the multifamily tax exemption. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending subsection 41220D2 of the Renton Municipal Code, amending multifamily tax exemption housing types, authorizing corrections, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
move the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Albertson, that the ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
All right. The next ordinance is regarding docket item D212, which is master plan timing. An ordinance of the City of Renton, Washington, amending subsection 49200J of the Renton Municipal Code, setting a time limit of 10 years for phased master plans, authorizing corrections, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Prince.
move this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Councilmember Albertson, that this ordinance be placed on second and final reading at the next council meeting. In discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, we are on to new business. Council President McGurven.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to announce that the Committee of the Whole will be meeting on Monday, August 8th at 6 p.m. There's one item on the agenda, and that's the Renton Municipal Court State of the Court Address. Following that, we'll have our regular council meeting at 7 p.m. And then if I could just take a quick moment of personal privilege, I'd also like to congratulate our new administrator for Equity Housing and Human Services, who we confirmed unanimously on the consent agenda tonight and have with us here in the audience. So. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on Monday, August 8th at 4:45 PM in the council conference room and by video conference, Planning and Development Committee will meet. We have 2 items on the agenda, docket 17, Group B, and emerging issues in CED. And that's all, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Van.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Albertson.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Rivera.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember O'Halloran.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to announce that on August 8th, Monday, August 8th at 3:45 PM, the Finance Committee will be meeting in the conference room as well as on video. We have 4 items on the agenda. The first is Sound Publishing Shop Local Program. Second is All Is Well Filming Fee Waiver Request. And the third is the Washington State Department of Commerce Agreement for the Connecting Housing to Infrastructure Program. And then the fourth and final is vouchers. And that's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So before we go, I want to thank the council for their support in our newest administrator. I promised her I wouldn't make her come up and speak, but I'm sure she'll be in front of you very soon. So thank you very much. What's with the council?
Be adjourned.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Prince, second by Council President McGurven, that we adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're adjourned.